Welcome back, everyone, to game number 2 between MagnusBOT from the Play Magnus app and HikaruBOT from chess.com. Now, as we know, the first game was a hard-fought game, which ended in a draw. HikaruBOT had the white pieces, and MagnusBOT had the black pieces. And now for the second game, the colors are reversed, so the MagnusBOT is playing with the white pieces. So away we go. The game starts with e4. HikaruBOT plays e6, and we get a French defense. Now, I have to be honest, I'm a little bit confused by this because based on the first game, which we saw earlier, it seems that the database should be based off the games that I've played. Now, let's be clear. I have played the French defense. I've won some very memorable games. Probably the game that comes to mind the most was a game that I won against Nick DeFermian in the 2005 United States Chess Champion, which I believe was, if I'm not mistaken, in a French McCutcheon. I think it was something like this. I don't remember which line he played exactly. I also won a very important game in the same French McCutcheon against Emil Satovsky in the United States versus Israel match in the 2006 Chess Olympiad, which was held in Turin, Italy. At any rate, however, I have not played the French much in recent years, and computers these days don't really like it. So it's a very peculiar choice. We get d4, and now we get b6. Okay, never mind. So basically, HikaruBOT actually reverts back to my opening book, but it does a weird order. Normally, if I'm going to play the Owens defense, it goes e4, b6, d4, and then e6. At any rate, it remembers that I do actually play this much more than I play the French, and we get the Owens. We get knight c3, bishop to b7, knight to f3, bishop to b4, bishop d3, and now we get this move, knight f6. Now, it's worth noting, I believe I had a game in the US Chess Championship in I'm going to say it was 2018, maybe it was 2019 against Timur Gureyev, where I think I had the white pieces and he played the setup, and I believe I played knight d2 or something along those lines, and the game ended in a draw. Here, however, we get queen to e2 being played by MagnusBOT. We get d5. We get e5 being played here, knight to e4, and now bishop to d2. Knight takes bishop, queen takes knight, and now castles and queen f4. Now, already here, it's interesting the computer actually likes black's position. I, however, personally prefer white's position here quite a bit because you've got this great op on d3. You have ideas like h4, knight g5, and it just looks a little bit sketchy unless black can play something like f6 right away. So the game continues with c5. You get castles, c4, bishop takes h7. Whoa, what is this? What is c4? This is crazy. Honestly, if I was playing here as a human, I would probably go bishop a6 just to trade off the b shops, or maybe I would trade first and then go bishop a6, something like this, because c4 is really asking for it. Now, I'm suspecting that HikaruBOT, at least on chess.com, the depth it has, it doesn't see danger. So either this is winning or winning completely for white, or it's just a bad sacrifice. This is what we also call the Greek gift. It's where white sacrifices the bishop on h7 here. I don't know if it's based off of like the Trojan horse story or what it comes from, but at any rate, we call this the Greek gift. So we get king takes h7, knight to g5 check, king to g6, and now h4 is played here. Now, again, I don't actually know what exactly is going on here, but it looks really, really scary for a couple of reasons. First of all, let's just say you play just a random move like knight to a6 here, for example. White can now play something like knight to e2. I'll just go knight c7, and now I think knight g3 might be good, or even queen g4 followed by knight f4 is really strong. There are also threats like potentially moves like h5 as well. So you go king h6, you get fossilized. There's knight takes e6, and of course you're in check and you lose the queen. So you have to be really, really careful here. So we get bishop takes c3 being played here by HikaruBOT. I think bishop e7 might be the only try here to survive, but again, it feels quite scary here. I'm going to let the computer think for a second to see if it picks up something, but there might be like h5 here. King takes h5, and now queen h2. Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. This is actually winning, because after king takes g5, there's queen to h7 here, and now basically your king is stuck. You can't block. Like if white were to check here, you could go to h6, g6, and just slowly ziggy-zaggy back to safety. But after queen to h7, white is threatening to go f4 here, and let's just say rook h8 is played. There's queen takes g7. If you go king to f5, I'll just illustrate there's f4 threatening g4 checkmate in 1, and after rook to h4 to stop g4 checkmate, white can now go knight e2. You have to play, I guess, something, well, rook g4, actually there's just like queen takes f7, which is mate. There's king e4 check, king e3, queen to h3, king to e4, f5, and queen f3 is checkmate. Pretty much next move. So already here, I suspect that after h4, even though the computer on chess.com is not showing it, I suspect that this is actually simply game over. I think Magnus has completely seen the whole line 30 moves deep, and he's going to win the game. We get bishop takes c3, bc3, bishop to c8 is played here, and now we get h5. And as you guys can see from the bar, now the version of Stockfish on chess.com realizes that it is all over. Now, this is also an important concept because it's something that does exist in chess. It used to exist a lot as well, which is called horizons. So in the game of chess, one thing that computers sometimes don't have is they don't have a horizon. So they're analyzing positions, they're looking at set moves for like 5-6 moves in a row, but they don't have the horizon to think further than like a couple of moves, and so they don't realize that a position might actually be losing down the road. Whereas for us humans, a position like this, we see the ideas like g4 h5, queen h2, and of course we can't calculate every single move, but we feel the danger. And sometimes computers actually cannot do that even now, where the horizon is an issue. Sometimes it occurs in things like the king's Indian attack. Sometimes it occurs in positions with like sacrifice, where you then like walk a king up the board, or you have time to like lift a rook, like rook e1, rook e3, rook g3, for example. In this situation, things along those lines, sometimes the horizon event does occur. At any rate here, it seems that the Hikaru bot doesn't have the horizon, because Hikaru bot is used to playing lots of blitz, moving too fast and not calculating, whereas MagnusBOT, obviously, it's thinking more about the long term and what are the possibilities. So we get bishop to c8 played, now h5 played by MagnusBOT, king to h6, and now we get knight takes e6, a classic fossil that I alluded to earlier. Black's king is in check, and the knight on e6 is attacking the queen. So this is already basically game over. We get king to h7, knight takes queen, rook takes knight, queen takes f7, and already here, like in many of the classical games that Hikaru has played against Magnus, the two humans I'm referring to, it's time to resign pretty early. At any rate, in Hikaru style, the Hikaru bot tries to fight on by going knight a6, but after e6, this is just not going to be very good. We get rook to g8, e7, knight to c7 here, which stops e8 queen. We get queen to g6, king h8, queen to c6, a brutal move which attacks both the knight on c7 and the rook on a8. So like if you move the knight, you lose the rook, and there's no way really to guard the knight without moving the knight, but then you lose the rook, so you're going to lose even more material. So we get rook to b8 being played here. We get queen takes c7, rook to b7, queen to d8. A very strong move. White just wants to make a new queen here. We get bishop to d7, trying to stop it. Queen to f8, bishop to e8. We get rook a e1. Of course, pretty much everything wins here. So the rest should be pretty straightforward. We get king to h7, queen to f5 check, king to h8. h6 here. Of course, queen takes d5 is also just a free pawn. It doesn't really matter how you go about it. All roads lead to Rome, as we like to say. And of course, very fitting considering that we have the classic Greek gift with bishop takes h7. So we get h6, g6, queen takes d5, rook to d7 played, and now we get queen takes c4. Of course, here Hikaru bot could resign, but one other thing is that when bots generally play, bots very rarely resign. They almost always play it out to checkmate. Queen to c7, rook to d7, queen e5, king h7, we get king h2, bishop to f7, king g3, b5, e8 equals knight. Of course, fancy schmancy. White can win with f4, e8, everything just wins. So we get e8, bishop takes, queen takes b5, a6, queen c6, rook f8, and now I assume rook takes e8, the crushing blow, because you remove the defense of the rook on d7. You also win a bishop as well. So if black plays rook takes rook, you can simply take, and otherwise white simply has a whole extra queen here. So MagnusBOT is simply crushing. We get queen to c8, g5, rook to h8 is played here, and now we get king to g6, queen c6 check, king f5, rook to e1, threatening mate in 1 with rook e5 check, rook d6, rook to e5, king g6, queen e4 check, and it's supposed to be like a forced mate. King h5, queen g4, king g6, and we get queen takes g5, which is checkmate. So MagnusBOT wins the second game in very convincing style. Now, one thing that's a pity about the second game, however, is that this opening we saw the Owens defense. Now, mind you, the Owens defense is probably not losing by force, but objectively it gives white a big advantage. Even on the weaker computer engines, you'll see that on move number 2, it says that white is better by about roughly 0.9 to 1.00 roughly in terms of the advantage. However, this game is also noteworthy because there is a sacrifice with bishop takes h7, which the MagnusBOT, whether you want to say it's like the depth of the engine or the slight differences that there are, the MagnusBOT spotted the whole combination. It realized that this whole idea with h4 and h5 is very strong, whereas the HikaruBOT in typical fashion, similar to the way that Hikaru the human sometimes plays, it doesn't realize it until it's too late. See, like you go back here in this position, what I probably would have played as a human is probably I would have taken and gone bishop a6 or just played like h6 here, because when you play c4, it's basically a semi bluff. And actually, you know what, let's use another example of a semi bluff. So this is actually a perfect example, again, not to go on a long tangent here because we've looked at the game, but there was a famous match that was played between Garry Kasparov and Deep Blue, the computer program, in 19, I believe it was a rematch, so it should have been 19 I think that was 19, I believe that was 1998, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, this was the position. There's this position that occurs. Now, this is all standard theory out of the Caro Khan, and here Garry Kasparov played h6. Now, the reason Garry Kasparov played h6 is that at the time, computers, they weren't as strong as they are today. They didn't have the opening books they do today, and Garry assumed that after h6, the computer would be very materialistic. It would realize that the knight's under attack, and it would play knight e4 or knight h3, because after knight takes e6, black can play a move like queen e7 or take. Now, if black plays queen e7, which is what occurred in the game, castles takes, bishop g6, and king d8, the assumption was the computers at that time, even though white is down a piece, would not realize how strong the position is, how overwhelming the compensation was, like rook e1, bishop f4, etc. And so Garry did that thing that like it wouldn't have the horizon, it wouldn't be able to realize, because it could only see a few moves ahead, it wouldn't be able to think further down the road and realize that it would be winning. Now, of course, as we know from that game that was played, knight takes e6 was played. Garry got flustered. I don't know if he accused the programmers of cheating during the game or they just done it, but they had input this variation into the opening book and it played this move. Garry lost the game in 19 moves. He got up very flustered, threw his hands in the air, walked away, and that was, I think, the last time that we thought that humans were still comparable with computers. At any rate, back to this game, of course, this is it's very important to note that the horizon does matter, and a big props go to the MagnusBOT, whatever engine it's using, because it did realize that this idea of the Greek gift with knight g5 and h4 was sufficient. So I do hope you guys have enjoyed this recap. I hope you guys, or recap is the wrong word, but I do hope you guys have enjoyed this analysis of the game. We've taken a little bit of a trip down memory lane by talking about Kasparov and Deep Blue. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have not already subscribed to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button below, and we'll be back with more content very, very soon. See you guys, and thank you so much for all the support.